Hey everyone, it's Eric here on Daily Mail FDM, and this week is Random Week, in which everybody on the channel is going to have a little something different to talk about. So be sure to check in with everybody else on the channel. I am going to talk about having schizophrenia while transitioning, because I know for sure nobody else on the channel has schizophrenia, and I feel like it's something that is not discussed, and that it is very, very important and affects your transition greatly. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience and what I do to kind of help myself and everything involving schizophrenia transitioning put together, because it's quite a ride, let me tell you. Now, there are so many different forms of schizophrenia that it's almost impossible to even define. You cannot specifically define schizophrenia. There are guidelines in the, what is it, the MSDS or something? I don't know. The big therapy book that most therapists go off of to make their diagnosis. They have guidelines for, I think, 4 main different types of schizophrenia. I've looked at this, and I think the closest one that I can relate to is the paranoid schizophrenic. Basically, what I'm going to tell you a little bit about the symptoms. For me personally, every single person who has schizophrenia is going to have different experiences. So for me, there is that stereotypical voice in your head. It's almost like having a second person in your head, except the second person in your head sounds exactly like you, and they tell you things inside your mind and show you things that will literally just drive you insane in a matter of hours, if the symptoms are bad enough. And it's really difficult because it causes you so much confusion. Another main symptom is a inability to figure out what is reality. So, to a normal person, where you have like a bad thought or something, you know, you'll just figure, okay, you know, that wasn't real, that wasn't mine, whatever. But if you're schizophrenic and you have a thought like that, you'll sit there for days wondering if that was really your thought, if you really did want to do that, or if you really did believe that. And it will rip you apart from the inside out. So, and disassociation with reality. I don't know if this is a symptom, but I've been experiencing a lot of kind of memory loss almost lately, where, let's say I look in the mirror or something, and all of a sudden I don't recognize myself at all. Or I'll be sitting in the car, back seat or whatever, and all of a sudden I'll forget where I am, and I have no idea what's going on. So, I don't know if that's a side effect of something similar. I don't know. I've actually kind of maybe lied a little bit to my therapist because I was worried that getting diagnosed with schizophrenia would delay me being able to be on hormones. And I did not want that, so I didn't really tell her everything. So I'm technically not diagnosed with schizophrenia, but it's blatantly obvious that I have it. So, I'll clarify that. Now, schizophrenia, the symptoms kind of vary. I've noticed the first early onset of symptoms happened around the age of between 13 and 15. 15 being when they were the strongest. I think I ended up going to therapy at that point because I had a mental breakdown and told my mom all the things that had ever happened. I kept this all very well concealed. You can ask anybody in my family, they had no idea that I had such extreme like mental trauma going on inside my own head. So I started going to therapy, which I actually, that same therapist I've been seeing for 2 years until tomorrow. She is moving out of this area, so I won't be able to see her anymore, but started going to therapy, and it really helped me to manage my symptoms. And they eventually, you know, they come in spurs. Like, it's not a constant voice in my head. I'm going to say mine, just because I don't want to generalize everybody with schizophrenia. But for me, I can go through months and months and months of having no symptoms whatsoever, I'm perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden, it's just every couple of hours for like a month or 2 straight, and then it'll kind of dwindle off, and then it'll go through another phase where it happens again. And I wish I knew what, all could trigger that kind of response, but I have no idea. I do believe, though, that it could be attributed to hormones, because I've had a massive outburst lately after starting testosterone on a low dose, so my hormones are battling me on the inside. And back when I was 15, I had a massive hormonal imbalance that I never had checked out. So it could be triggered by hormonal imbalances, as well as stress factors and circumstances, external stimuli, whatever, all of that. But to manage it, I do suggest therapy for sure. If you're trans and you think that getting diagnosed with schizophrenia would impede on your ability to go on hormones, then you can just look for coping skills, mostly. Just tell your therapist that you're looking for coping skills to deal with anxiety and such. Because the symptoms of schizophrenia can be easily relatable to anxiety, as well as trying to manage those symptoms. Within that time, I learned how to play guitar, and that became a very good, what's the word? I just used it like 5 months ago. Coping skill. It became a very good coping skill for me to manage these symptoms that were destroying me on the inside and causing all kinds of suicidal tendencies and self-harm and all those really bad things that I really did not want to deal with, but in the end had to, because I did not want to live with two people inside of my skull. Misconceptions about schizophrenia: we're not violent people, or at least we're not violent towards other people most of the time. Those kinds of schizophrenics usually get found out pretty quickly, and they're not going to be in your day-to-day life. But people like me, we're much more heavy dangers to ourselves than we are to anybody else on the face of this earth. We are 10 times more likely to injure ourselves than we are to injure you, because we don't want to be the way we are. There's that half of me that is me, and then there's the half of me that is not me. Almost a sort of blurry face if you're a 21 Pilots fan. That's the name I've come to call this other creature. Just remind myself, oh, that's just blurry face. Thank you, 21 Pilots, by the way, for giving me that kind of closure of giving this terrible imaginary creature inside my brain a name. It's very difficult while you're transitioning, because it'll also try to objectify your identity, or I don't think objectify your identity. I'm going to use it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But I think I had a therapist that I went to briefly for gender issues who caused much, much more damage than she did good. Because she asked me, I don't even remember the question, but it was, the root around it was, are you really trans, basically? And I ended up having 2 mental breakdowns, because my brain was ripping itself apart, and I was like, am I? I have no idea. I had no answer to the question and no way to figure it out either way. I was just, it was something you do not tell a schizophrenic person something that will make them think that hard. Do not ask them, are you sure about this or that? If they tell you that they identify as something, let it be. Do not try to contradict it. Do not do that. It caused me so much grief, I ended up just not going to that therapist ever again. I was done. That was it. It was almost impossible to get out of that rut. I think had I done that alone, I would not have been able to get out of it. It was so strong of a hold on my mental stability, I could not figure out, it just crashed my ideas of reality. I had no idea what was going on around me. Everything was just like a blur. It was ridiculous. Don't do that to schizophrenic people. Do not. I cannot stress to you enough that you need to let them make their own decisions, and do not present some, thought or theory that could contradict the options that they've already presented for themselves. You could end up killing them. because they could get so distraught over just this one thought that will just keep replaying in their brain over and over and over again, that they will not want to even be alive anymore. So, if you know somebody who's schizophrenic, for the love of God, do not mess with their brain like that. They are probably dealing with quite the issue already, and to add on to it would just be not nice at all, to say the least. But I'm correlating this back to transitioning. Obviously, people are going to... You're going to get the question, are you sure you're not gay, at one point or another? And that is where you're going to have that kind of problem. Don't ever ask somebody, are you sure you're not just gay? Don't do it. You could really, really mess somebody up if you don't know what's going on in their brain. So, if you're schizophrenic yourself and you want more advice or something more specifically correlated to yourself, I will obviously leave links in the description, and you can contact me personally. I have no trouble helping you. I know lots and lots about dealing with it, and I know how to help you, how to, just at least be there for you. I do not want to see somebody kill themselves because they're schizophrenic. It's a reality that you're going to want to at some point. If you're schizophrenic, I can almost guarantee you at some point you're going to have that thought. So, I am here for people who have that. Any mental disorder, really, it's going to affect you, especially if you're transitioning, because people will try to use it against you, and it's not okay for them to do that. But I am here. The rest of the guys are here. Contact whoever you like. I have been rambling on for quite some time now, so I will leave you with everything that I've said already. Don't mess with people's identities. Don't do that. And don't assume that you know what's going on inside somebody's head, because odds are you have no clue. So thank you for watching. Be sure to check out everybody else's videos. We all have different topics, as I said before. And I will see you all next Saturday.